What is up? You're listening to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, proud members of the Love Thy Nerd Network, and I am so excited to have my boy Ray back in the building. What's up, Ray?
What's happening?
Yeah, man. Ray and his wife Kim just had their baby girl, and we're super pumped. So, Ray, this is your moment, man. Talk about your kid.
Oh, she is the best baby in the world, Joe. She is
No
the
bias.
most beautiful baby in the world. No bias.
Yeah.
These are all facts I'm talking about right now. Yes, yeah, no. Man, we had a wonderful birth 2 weeks ago today. She is 2 weeks old today, man,
Praise
and
God.
just been blessed. Long awaited, and she's home and doing well, and we couldn't be happier, and everything's going fantastic, man. This is a wonderful journey into parenthood, and I love every moment of it, even the sleepless nights. So
yeah, and which I was gonna say, man, you look far too energetic and refreshed to be calling out sleepless nights, bro. I saw you this morning, and I was like, wow, Ray's really he's up here. So
she, you know what? In all honesty, she's doing pretty well. She's sleeping in 2 and 3 hour increments through the night, and we're blessed to get some rest. But I'm excited to be back on the podcast. So
yeah, man,
that's amping me up.
That's what it is. Yeah. I tell people, like, when you have kids, man, you hit this new level. Like, you learn to function on a different level of exhaustion. And as we were talking about it earlier, because you have the hospital, right, where you're already kind of like on call, and you have these random hours that can get weird at times. Like, maybe, the Lord just used that to prepare you, so you're not as exhausted as I was.
I did say that. Yeah, he's been preparing me for the last 10 years. So yes.
No, that's cool. Super stoked for you, man. It's definitely a blessing, and we got to go and hang out and meet her today. So and she was sleeping, so it was cool. It was good.
See?
Yep. But no, yeah, super stoked to have you, back joining on the podcast here. Joining? You're a co-host, so you're on the podcast, but you're joining it too. So I guess
that's
works.
Right.
This is what happens when you don't map this stuff out, folks. When you don't have any script and you just say, hey, let's wing it. Yeah, this is what you get. You get to wing it. But yeah, no, thrilled to have you back, and pumped for what's out ahead. And in this episode, we actually had this opportunity to interview Cole Smith. He's got an upcoming game here called 3 Magi. It's getting set to launch on Kickstarter on May 13th. There's going to be links everywhere, so click those in the podcast. And we just learned that the day after we recorded this podcast is his birthday, and he said it, and we were like, cool. And both Ray and I were thinking, man, we really got to say happy birthday to Cole, and we just went right into the next question. Neither of us even said it. And so with that, Cole, it's now past your birthday, but happy birthday, happy 30th.
Birthday.
We'll sing for you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. All right, cool. This is your birthday jam, Cole. This is for you. All right. And no, we had a lot of fun. And just hearing his heart for Jesus, hearing his heart, and as he works, his faith in and through his board game and creative process, and just how all this played out. So really, really excited for 3 Magi, just to be able to get it to the table. I actually have a prototype copy, so I'm really pumped to actually be able to get to play it. But we had a great time talking with Cole, and we hope that you listen to this interview and you enjoy it, that you learn some things along the way, and that you would go and support our brother in Christ. And so, but Ray, before we even get into that interview, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm often mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, we have some sponsors, and I think a new one?
Yeah. No, you're not mistaken this time. Yeah. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Fearless Nonprofit. It's a small but growing organization boldly sharing the gospel and creating spaces where people feel love through fun, meaningful activities. From fearless paintball outings to community support programs, they're all about being fearless in faith and action. Whether it's helping the homeless, supporting disaster relief, rescuing animals, or partnering with domestic violence prevention efforts, Fearless Nonprofit steps in where help is needed most. And coming soon, a Bible-based trading card game designed to fuel both fun and fellowship, with proceeds going straight back into their mission. How dope is that? Learn more and get involved at fearlessnonprofit.org. That is fearlessnonprofit.org.
And then so that's awesome. We have one other sponsor though. I mean, that was a dope read. Don't get me wrong, because that was pretty incredible. I thought that was a really dope read. I don't want to stop it here. I think we have another sponsor as well, and I hope you remember. Do you remember?
Are you talking about Game Changer?
I am talking about Game Changer. Where is the Game Changer specifically held?
Oh, yes, this is at Camp Living Waters, man. So, yes, we do have Camp Living Waters as a sponsor still. Hey, if you go over to camplivingwaters.com and check out their
This is so good because here's where I get to make facial dating stuff. It's camplivingwaters.org.
O-R-G. Yes, that's right. That's what happens when you've been gone for a while, people. So hopefully you're sticking around. Camplivingwaters.org, man. No, if you go over there to camplivingwaters.org, I'm going to say it like 7 times now so that the people know that camplivingwaters.org is the place to be and the place to go to find out about all that they offer. So this is a space where you can go and have outings with family and friends. We have our game changer retreats there. They have women events, men events. They have fellowship halls. They have great food and great company there. It's a beautiful campus out in the woods in Luther, Michigan. Man, it's a great time to get away. And with spring and summer coming up, it's a perfect time to check them out and get out there and see what they have going on, from kayaking to fishing to skeet shooting and bear hunting. I don't know, but maybe that last one, no, I don't know, but check it out. So go to camplivingwaters.org and check them out. And thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, man, love it. And they have summer camps for kids, which is super cool. My kids are going this year, really pumped. And so Camp Living Waters is dope, and we're blessed to have them as a sponsor. Just really pumped. But yeah, no, that is what happens, man. You know, you have a kid, you stop sleeping, you're like, yo, I think it's Camp Living Waters. Yep.
I need some of that right now.
It's camplivingwaters.org, not to be confused with camplivingwaters.com. This message has been brought to you by camplivingwaters.org. If you have even made it this far, we commend you. You are now 6 minutes and 36 seconds into this podcast, and we have clearly set the tone for where we're going. But no, we really do appreciate you taking the time to listen. We hope that you have fun rocking with us. We are just pumped to continue making more and more episodes. But we want to get to this interview here with Cole Smith. So Matt, cue the music.
Welcome to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, where we focus on Jesus, community, and board games. Let's have some fun.
So today on the podcast, we are excited to welcome a rising voice in the board game design world, Cole Smith. He is the creator of the upcoming game 3 Magi. This is a title that blends biblical themes with compelling game mechanics. We're going to be talking about his journey into game design, the heart behind 3 Magi, and how his faith in Jesus fuels his creativity. Cole, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. I mean, can't complain. I don't think.
Doing great, man. Excited as always.
Yeah. Ray is classically excited. That's our thing on the podcast. So cool.
Right.
Well, yeah, we're just excited to have you, man. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to kick it over to Ray because we don't want to waste any time. So.
All right.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so Cole, it's great to have you here, man. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Coming all the way from our brothers in the North, Canada. What is it called now? Is it America, Canada, or what are we doing? Did we buy it yet? Or no, I'm just joking.
Not yet.
Out of hand.
I know, just joking.
Run it back.
All right. Yeah.
Didn't you take Alaska from us?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
right. Where do we stop? No, but no, let's get serious and let's get into this. Hey, so yeah, we got a lot that we want to cover in this episode while you're here. And for anybody who doesn't know you personally, how would you describe your relationship with Jesus and how it all started?
Yeah, so I grew up going to church, and I went to a Christian elementary school. And at the time, though, my mom was still like new herself to being a Christian. And so going to a Christian elementary school, I learned all the biblical stories and narratives and stuff like that. And I definitely would say from a young age, I always believed in God. And then kind of going into closer to high school and through high school, I had a lot of family issues that came up and kind of caused a lot of hurt for everyone in our family. And kind of all of us started kind of losing our faith and not as interested in going our separate ways and kind of doing the thing of the world. But wrapping up like near ending my time in high school, and my brother and sister were already out of high school, God started kind of pulling on everyone's heart, even my parents and me and my siblings. And we kind of all came back to church and back to faith in our own unique different way at different times. And so in my like early 20s, I ended up going back to a church we had been to before with my sister and her husband, and just started finding God like revealing more about his scripture. And I got really into studying like the historical context, because I'm the type of person that when I was older reading Bible stuff, like if I don't understand something, I don't just dismiss it, but I don't just accept it as it is. I need to like, dig deeper and find out, why was God saying this to these people at this specific time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of grew a hunger for studying God's word. And now I just truly believe that salvation through Christ is like the most important thing anyone could have.
Amen.
And it's interesting how so many people discover that in different ways. And like you said, it's interesting that we could be here all as Christians talking about board games. So it's a bit of, I guess, a faith overview for me.
Yeah, praise God. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, salvation in Jesus, foundationally, that's the most important thing. That's the most, that's the greatest decision that anybody can make. And praise God that the three of us have said yes to him, right? So yeah, dope, man. Cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more of your journey as we go here. So I actually have a 3-part question, because I like to complicate things and make it 3 parts. But so I'm going to read all 3 of them, and then if you forget one, it's cool. Just ask what it is. Okay. But so first, wanting to know what drew you into board game design, and how did your journey as a designer begin? Essentially, how does your relationship with Jesus actually influence your work as a game designer? And do you find your faith shaping not just your themes, but your approaches to creativity?
Okay. Yeah. So to start at the beginning, the story I kind of always share with people about how I got into game design is I grew up playing a ton of games with my grandparents, and they were always buying games and lending us ones. I learned a lot of cribbage, rummy, euchre, and then got into tons of other games with them. And it wasn't until now, when I'm older, I didn't know that a lot of people might, like, I'm going to be 30 tomorrow, actually. And I didn't know that a lot of other friends didn't grow up playing tons of games. And so they were doing other stuff with their grandma, but my grandma brought home Stratego, and we were attacking each other's generals, and I was blowing up her soldiers with my bombs and stuff like that. So that was normal to me.
Yeah.
And so I remember playing games like with my cousins at my grandparents when we would stay over, and there'd be some that we've played a million times. So I just would start making up rules, like not to cheat, but to change it so we could do something different. And I found myself doing that at home with other friends. And so thinking back now, I was always trying to, like, I remember having Lord of the Rings Risk, and friends had got me into Warhammer, the tabletop game. So I thought, oh, can I take the pieces in this and change the rules? And it's no longer Risk, but now it's a map and it's an area control, war game. I mean, it is an area control war game, but in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a kid. So that's kind of like, I think, what influenced that creativity. But definitely over the pandemic, I had a bunch of time off work, and I just had so much time to myself, and you can only play video games for so long. And I thought, like, I was still playing board games with family and stuff. So I thought, why don't I try making some games, trying to make something similar to games I like. And that kind of just sparked a few prototypes that were probably terrible, but eventually got to where I am now. And later, I know you have some questions about some of the other games I have published, so I'll save that for later. But to go on to your second part, which was, now I kind of have to ask, that was about
just how your relationship with Jesus influences your work as a game designer.
Yeah, I think like what I said before about, Christ being the focus of what I ultimately would love to share with people. More so, I want him to be more important than the games I make or other hobbies I have or whatever is going on in my life. Yeah. So I think to connect those two, I like to see my games bring joy to people. to see friends come together and be able to laugh and yell at each other and fun and just have a good time and connect.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were lacking that during the pandemic and even afterwards, having a big time period of not being social. So I just love the aspect that, like, Jesus did a lot in his ministry, but he also had meals with people and he sat down and connected with them on a personal level.
Yep.
And I think board games are a great way to bring people together.
Yeah.
And so that would be like the general for, a basic type. But then we're going to talk about three magi more based on a biblical narrative. If I can also use my faith to spark curiosity into the actual biblical stories, that's also important.
Yeah, love that. You're speaking my language, man. Bringing people together at the table. Board games are a great tool for that. All about it. I've now readjusted my entire life and dedicated my life to that exact mission, right? How do we bring people to the table for discipleship and evangelism? And again, just, absolutely love it. And it was right around that time of the pandemic where that started to really hit me, where it's like, man, like, community's worth fighting for. And board games really help bring community together. So yeah, love that. So and again, you just kind of shared the last little bit here where, like, your faith, you want to be able to connect these two things. Like, when you're getting creative, like, is this a time of maybe a little bit of, even for worship for you? Like, do you really just sit down and try to create, with the Father? Like, how does your creative process play out as a believer?
Yeah, I think maybe I can be, it's funny to say as a creative person, and I've done lots of other stuff, like in music, I work in graphic design.
Yeah.
My mom's a painter and
Okay.
an interior designer. So it's funny what I'm going to say is I feel like I sometimes have a linear mindset in some of my creativity.
Okay.
Where I don't know if I've ever really thought of it as worship. I definitely think of it as using my gifts of creativity that I believe God's given me.
Sure.
And so I definitely think that, like, I guess I like to be aware of what I'm doing. So, obviously with the biblical themed games, and I've worked on a few other ideas with the co-designer of Three Magi, it's pretty easy to say, okay, we're going to focus on the Bible. But for other games that I might just have an interest of something else in the world, I think the biggest thing for me is making sure I'm not designing a game that might be dishonorable to God, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think sometimes that can be a thin line and can be hard, especially in, like, there's board games based off of history, but a lot of board games are based off fantasy. And, not to dive into this big rabbit hole, but lots of Christians have different opinions on what they believe any Christian should do, or what they believe God says is okay for them to do or not. So I definitely pray about that, and I think about that, and I think about, if this gets published and people play it, what are they going to take away, or what are they going to think about me? And then another one final point on that is, now that I've worked with some publishers, I've learned that it's a team process, even though it's my name on the game.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky to work with publishers that have kept me involved a lot, but I've heard stories of other ones that they sign the game and then they never hear about it until it's on the shelf. And I guess the hard thing is you never know what a publisher might change. And hopefully it's not a big deal, but I don't know a good example right now, but it would be hard if a publisher changed something that then I felt went against my convictions with my faith.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Wow. Yeah, I think that's wise.
Man, I love your processes and your mindset, and how gospel centered you are, how Jesus forward you are, and everything that you've answered in your games and everything. Man, it's just so centered around being a good steward and being faithful to God and his kingdom, man. I love that. That is beautiful. That's awesome. So yeah, no, thank you, man. This is great. This is what we need in the game space and just in the world in general, is for God's people, there's creative people to come out and let their light shine in whatever capacity it is. And you're doing that, so that's wonderful. With that, I want to ask you, how would you describe your design philosophy? Are there specific mechanics or themes that you gravitate toward when designing games? Something that you like to use a little more than others, or something that's just high on your list?
There's one thing I heard in a board game podcast a long, long time ago, and it just has always stuck with me. And it was like specifically about design. And it said that there's three types of ways designers go at a game design first. And one is like they think of a theme that's unique and interesting. Second one is they think of some game mechanics that, are new and innovative. And the other one is they might think of a component type thing, like something they want to make a big volcano that's, actually 3D on the board.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely someone that leans with theme first. I think about like, do I want to make a game about pirates or Vikings? Even if it's simple, I can get inspired by a movie or a book or a video game or something else. So, and then I always try to complement it with what mechanics or what components might work with that. But I think once I get to that place where I have a thematic idea, I think the mechanics comes next for me. And that is heavily influenced by usually what I'm playing around that time. So I like to play a lot of different games, and I have a busy mind. So I find to fixate on what I've been doing recently in life. So if I'm playing a lot of area control games, then it wouldn't be a surprise that my next prototype would include that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. With that, do you have any examples of other games? I know you've talked about some other prototypes, some that maybe just starting out you thought maybe weren't as great, but are there any other games that you can tell us about that you have even prototyped or maybe in production, or that maybe at some point in production?
Yeah, I can share. I actually grabbed two of them, so like I can hold them up to the camera, but technically speaking, right now, I only have one game available on the market to buy, which is called Tanuki, which is here with, I don't know if I'm mirrored.
Oh, you're
It's
good. Yeah, we can see it, right? Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
I think so.
And it's published by Synopsis Games, which is a publisher under Flat River Group. And that one's been out for like a year and a half now, and it's a take that card game. If you don't know, a tanuki is like a Japanese raccoon dog. And so all the characters are dressed up like ninjas and samurai and stuff like that. And
Like
so
that.
it's a great one for like kids and family. It's not super strategic, but has enough that, is brought seems to be I'm getting good feedback from, families that their kids want to keep playing it with them. And so that's one that is out there, like it's on Amazon and stuff. And then Three Magi, which we'll talk about more in a bit, is coming to Kickstarter on May 13th. And then also soon, because it has been announced, also coming to Kickstarter is another game with Tangerine Games called Soros. And this is a prototype, so this isn't what the final art will look like, but it is a trick-taking puzzle game with a dinosaur themed. And the kind of hook on the trick taking is that unlike in euchre where you play a whole round and you know that spades is the trump suit the entire time, with this you flip over one tile. It's got these chunky mahjong tiles, and the dinosaur type, the suit, determines what the trump is for that trick. But you're trying to win that tile as well to have more tiles to put on your puzzle board. So after you play that one trick, you flip a new one. So the trump suit changes every single trick. So it's a little bit more harder to plan for. And then each tile has a dinosaur type and a symbol. And those are going to go on asymmetric player mats. And you're going to have to put your first one anywhere, but then build off of it after that. And, as an example, like if you put two footprints together, you get like 4 points. If you have the most eggs out of any player, you get a certain amount of points. And then you get a bonus if you keep the same colored dinosaurs together. So it's a bit of a simple puzzle and trick taking kind of smashed together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have any questions about those two?
Well, I actually saw people playing that at Tantrum Con because Tangerine was at that convention,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Yep.
get a chance to sit down because I was there with Love Thy Nerd, and I was running around and did not get a chance to sit down at the booth to try it out. But it looked like people were really enjoying themselves, which is pretty cool. It like you said, those chunky pieces, it definitely jumped out. The tiles, I was like, oh, but yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to actually sit and play it, but. Yeah, like I said, it looked like people were really enjoying the game. But yeah, no, I actually wanted to jump right into Three Magi if we can.
Sure.
You mentioned it. You got the Kickstarter coming up May 13th, so very soon. By the time this airs, it'll be like a week away, which is exciting. And so we're gonna have links and everything in the show notes so people can follow and get notified at launch and all that stuff. But what I'm really curious. So, like, out of all the biblical stories and the narratives, like, what inspired the theme and mechanics of the game, and what sets it apart from other, let's say, other games on the market that not even necessarily biblically based or Christian games? Like, what's going to set Three Magi apart from other games in general?
Okay. Yeah. Like for the inspiration, I co-designed it with Adrian Adamescu, who some people might know as the designer of Sagrada, a very popular game.
Yep.
And he is also Canadian. And um, I remember, I think he just follows a lot of people on Instagram. So he saw something about Tanuki and was like, oh, another Canadian game designer. And then it was around Easter a couple years ago that he shared on his story something about Jesus. And so I just randomly messaged him because obviously I knew, like I had played Sagrada before and known how great it is. And I was like, oh, are you a Christian? And he said yes. And we got talking about our faith. And then he said he always wanted to try making a biblical theme game. And that's how he asked me to kind of co-design with him. And our first initial thought is we were thinking about doing like a Solomon's Temple kind of, building game. And then we did some research and found out that like, not recently, but that's actually been done a few times actually. I was surprised. So we kind of needed to like pivot theme, and we just did some brainstorming, and then he suggested the Three Wise Men's journey, to visit Jesus in Bethlehem. And I don't know, instantly I thought it was a great idea. And we were both like, I think out of a lot of biblical stories, this is one, people associate that with the nativity story. Whether, doing some historical research, I'm pretty sure the wise men showed up a few years after Jesus was actually born.
Yeah.
But most people at Christmas time know that they're associated with that. So
Yep.
we thought that there'd be some good opportunities there. And we started with that. And I had been into kind of modular board setup games that involved kind of exploration or travel. And I had this initial idea for our prototype to say, what if we build the desert out of all tiles and you're moving your little caravan, your magi on camels across them? And then we got basically the idea to fit the story in better. You would start in the desert of Arabia and you would travel to Bethlehem, and there's some key city tiles that stay in the same place every setup.
Okay.
But all the rest of the desert tiles are set up differently every game. And so you move through Jericho, Jerusalem, and then Herod's palace, which, if people don't know from the story, the Magi, when they got closer, they were called to meet with King Herod, and he wanted them to, tell him if they found this child so he could basically kill Jesus, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of one of the final sections before eventually finishing when people get their pieces to Bethlehem. But each location is basically a worker spot that gives you two actions. And I think what sets the gameplay apart from some games is the main thing it involves is worker placement, crafting, set collection, a rondelle puzzle, and hand management. But all of those, I'm pretty proud of it. We were able to blend all of those, like all together in a way. So when you land on a worker spot, you might get draw this resource type. So there's 3 different resource decks that have like gold, frankincense, myrrh, that people know from the story, but we added in silver and silk and cloth as well.
Okay.
So when you get your cards, you can save them as a resource to craft gifts for Jesus, which get you points. And that's a pretty typical thing gamers know. But you can also play them at play a card actions for whatever their ability. And some can be instant abilities that might gain you something else. And some might be kind of a set collection of scoring more points in a specific way. And also, whenever you choose to play them, whether you're getting something right away or waiting for more points later after a round, you're also always getting a sun, moon, or star icon that's on every card.
Okay.
And that works with your navigation board, which is kind of this nighttime constellation sky that's a rondelle, and you're moving these 3 trackers around. And if you pass certain sections, you get benefits, but also if you can line them up at certain times, kind of like a north, east, south, and west, you'll get these other benefits that will then trigger multiple times in the game. So hopefully that's not too much trying to give a good overview.
Yeah,
at least explain how the mechanics.
It'll lead a little bit into Ray's next question set. So we're gonna get even more. So you just started to give us a little bit of that appetizer, but now we're gonna roll with it. So no, that's good.
Yeah, no, that I like that. I like those mechanics. I like whenever you can have a card that has multi-purpose. Like you can keep it for set collection for later points, or you can take it and use it now. That's a cool mechanic. I like that. So how closely does the game itself follow the biblical narrative? And then where at what points did you choose to take some creative liberties in there?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned it already, but I'll reiterate, is you are journeying to Bethlehem. And I think from what I know, based on some biblical scholars, is it's kind of hazy on when the Magi actually showed up, and, were Mary, Joseph, and Jesus still in Bethlehem at that time, or were they on their way to Egypt and different stuff like that. So there's definitely some creative liberty there. But again, we don't technically even at the end say that they've met Jesus. It's just this is just part of their journey, right? So they're still, they've collected their gifts, and then, they've done this journey across the desert. So we have that. And then I mentioned about like King Herod's palace, keeping that in, because that's a part that is laid out more in the Gospels. We have the frankincense, myrrh, and gold, which there's going to be some special Kickstarter exclusive stuff that we're actually doing little bottles with frankincense and myrrh in them that can be used as like a first player token, but it's a little like souvenir. I think like a gold coin too, the publisher's working on.
Sweet.
But trying to think. Yeah, I think like that it covers it pretty loosely. Yeah. But something Badoan Games, the publisher, has already done with some of their other games, and I really wanted to make sure they did, is in the first page of the rule book is a chunk from the Gospel of Matthew about this story. So even if we were, as game designers, getting a little, I don't want to say loose on the theme, just like, we don't have like a baby Jesus card that you can acquire. You know what I mean? So it is still...
That's the deluxe version, right?
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But it's still fairly loose, but then we tie it in by having in the rule book. It's still in the box. Like you can get, I think he has almost a full chapter from Matthew of the section that includes the wise men.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then with that, can you walk us through what a typical turn or a round in Three Magi would look like? Like what kind of decisions are players making, and then how do those tie into the story that's being told during the gameplay?
So in the game, you just continuously play rounds until one player has reached Bethlehem. And usually based on the pacing is you finish the current round. So usually if I were to get there before you guys would also get most of your guys there.
Okay.
But each round is 3 daylight phases and then a night phase, which is kind of like a scoring cleanup phase. So on a day phase, you have to move one of your 3 Magi, and they can't be on the same tile, and they need to always move towards Bethlehem and they need to still be connected. Now, there's no like blocking other players, but it's almost like there's a blocking of yourself for how you determine like this turn am I going to go to this tile. Just for context, they're hexagons, so there's a lot of different options within the map we've laid out. When you choose the tile you want to go to, that's like your worker placement, and the special city ones have 3 actions, but the regular desert ones have 2. And that could be a simple action as draw a metal card, which is either going to be a gold, a silver, or a wild card. Or it could be play a card that you already have in your hand. Or it could be gain a merchant card. And the merchants are these special cards that give you, they don't go to your hand, they're just like special bonuses. It could also be move the sun, moon, or star on your track and craft a gift. So they're simple actions, but you get a couple of them. And usually the play a card is very strong or the merchant one, because those can sometimes net you additional actions to kind of combo a little bit on a turn. But after you do that 3 times each player, then you come to this night phase and you get to play an additional card for free, which is to kind of help if players went after locations that didn't have a play a card action. Then you get to gain these things we call the navigation bonuses on this nighttime star map. So that was the one I was saying, if you line up in like your 3 kind of discs on this in north, east, south, or west, you'll get a token that goes on, and every night phase you'll activate that from now on. And then the final thing is just kind of a cleanup where you're scoring any of the cards. Like silk card is the more silk you have played in one round, the higher your scoring will be. But the interesting thing is that one's a multiplier, and there's some others that work off slightly different multipliers, but you have to score those and then scrap them and start over again, kind of those each round. So you got to say, do I think I'll land on enough player card actions, and do I have enough silk that it's worth playing them this round? Or should I save them maybe for another round? Or should I just spend them on the gifts that also get me benefits? So I would say that's kind of a overview of what a round happens in the game.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ray, do you have a follow-up? It looked like you
were... No. Well, I was going to kind of ask. So then the game ends after the 3 phases after one person reaches Bethlehem, and then you just total up your points from that point.
Yeah, you just keep doing. So like, if I reach Bethlehem on my first day phase, all of us still do 3 day phases and a night phase. Okay. So it's usually, we've found in play testing across all of the player counts, it's usually 4 rounds. Now there's some special cards that are in an expansion that's like a secret objective that wants you to reach Bethlehem first. So maybe somebody they just like push their way, because you can move quickly across the map, or you can kind of diagonal to hit more different locations.
Gotcha.
So we've had games 3 or 5 rounds, but generally it's like 4 rounds, and then you tally up any end scoring stuff.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, that's what's up. So, I mean, it sounds like 3 Magi is probably more for the strategic gamer, or would you say that even like in a family weight kind of state? Like, again, who's it for?
I think from a marketing standpoint, and from like, wanting to share the gospel, is especially with it being related to the Christmas nativity story. I think from a thematic point, it's for a lot of people, especially families. And from a gameplay aspect, like you were asking, I would say we always wanted to keep the gamer in mind. We know how big the board game hobby area is, and how important that is to us. We want people to be able to go back and want to keep playing it, not just buy it because it was Christian or whatever.
Right.
But I would definitely say, looking at your games, that I can already see some on the shelf that are more strategic, and heavier. So it's definitely not a super heavyweight game.
Sure.
I would say that, and something that's nice is, I think we were able to keep the action economy very simple, yet the strategy within combos tougher. So I think most families and kids could learn the game easily. It doesn't mean they're going to do as well as me, but they're still going to enjoy it. So I think hopefully it's for everyone. That was our goal. I know that's kind of weird to say because sometimes you think there should be a target audience.
Well, but I mean, again, your target audience was everyone, right? Like, so that, and that's okay too, right? Like, hey, from a thematic standpoint, we could definitely see families getting into this. We want to make it accessible. We want this to be something people can play, but there's also depth of strategy for the more gamer. But I would argue, as someone who has kids, like, I mean, I like that, right? Where I can play a game with them and we can get it really quickly, and then we can start developing some of those strategies as we go. And I think that's really awesome. So, my kids like to, we'll play light family games, and my oldest will get into some heavier stuff, and we'll have some fun with that. So I love a game that can be kind of in that both, like, yeah, this can be played for families, but there's also a depth of strategy that is just really unique. It's like I've been playing Harvest a lot. And Harvest is a very, light worker placement, but there's some really cool strategy things, but it's super accessible for my son. He just sits down, he can play it, he gets it, he understands it. And then he's starting to now develop some of that depth of strategy to get some points moving, right? I love games like that. So no, I think that's perfect. So were there any specific challenges that you faced while designing a game rooted in scripture, either from a mechanical standpoint or in terms of audience expectations? I think sometimes when you say, hey, we're doing a biblical game, eyes start to shift a little bit more, and people might have maybe some expectations out of what that should be or how you're handling things. I mean, have you guys encountered any specific challenges or anything?
Yeah, I said earlier that trying to remember. I think I said that, like, making sure it stays true to the story.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of great creative Christian things, like people that have done great creative things, and then I think there's other things out there that almost kind of like you wonder, oh, are they changing too much about God's word?
Sure.
So it's a thin line, and I think what makes that hard is that me and Adrian have been working on some other biblical games, and one we actually like changed the theme into like a non-biblical thing, but used a lot of the same mechanics. And I think that was because sometimes it's hard because you like have things that seem crucial to the stories, and then you're like, this wouldn't like translate to a game necessarily, and then you don't want to push it as a designer and say like we're just going to make it work, because we would rather work on an idea that feels like it will work with game mechanics. So I don't know if I have an example off the top of my head, but I don't know, like like a stupid example is like, are you going to do like a 2-player fighting game between Jesus and the devil where Jesus can lose? It's like,
right.
It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, not at all.
So I think maybe the hardest thing is like the stories are there. I'm not creating my own story, but it's saying like, will game mechanics work for this? And within saying that, I think that might be why there are older Christian board games that kind of suck from a gameplay mechanic side. It's because maybe they were trying to just push it just to have this thing to market,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. Well, I mean, just from what I've been hearing you say, about the mechanics and everything, it does, I mean, honestly, you have to have a journey element, right? And it sounds like you guys handled that journey element in a very unique way that is engaging, and the game doesn't seem to overstay its welcome. Like, I'm excited. I'm looking right at a prototype that I'm eager to get to the table of Three Magi. It did not come with any cool souvenir frankincense, or anything like that.
You got to back the Kickstarter.
I know. I hear you. But excited to break it out, and just even hearing you kind of talk about it more just sort of piques that excitement, more so. So yeah, pumped.
Hey, Cole, what's your hope for Three Magi in terms of the conversations that it can spark about Jesus and evangelism, either at the table, playing the board game, or even beyond the table, just in conversations in general?
I think the first thing that came to mind, so now, Joe said he got a prototype. I haven't got mine yet, but we It's not a jab at you.
No, that's fun. No, I take it. Like, hey, I got the prototype before the
design. The publisher was, putting out photos, and I've been sharing stuff with some friends. Like, I have a local board game group in town that's at a board game cafe, and there's been a bunch of people that I've become really good friends with, and most of them are not Christian, and they've play tested my games and they've been excited. We did a launch party for Tanuki and all that stuff. And Tanuki and Soros I love, but Three Magi is a bit heavier, like we're talking about. There's a lot more gameplay. And so now that I was sharing some images, like I had some friends who said, oh, like I can't, like they know I'm getting a prototype. So they said, I can't wait for you to get the prototype. I want to get to the table. And it was kind of like, oh, they're excited about this. And like they might be excited for the gameplay, or that, it's a bigger game than my other published games. So that they want to see there's a bit more meat to it. There's more stuff to explore in the components, but they're excited. And, whether they might not be excited because it's about Jesus, I don't know, but at least it's sparking a conversation. And you know what, like, I'm going to share this podcast, and I know a lot of them will listen to it. And all you can do, is share what you believe and let people do with it, what they can. And so I think just by having something that's bigger, I don't know, and especially the Kickstarter is going to have some nice miniatures of the Magi on camels. Like, I think that sparks conversation alone, if it looks pretty. And Bedouin Games has done great with the art. So I have friends that are not Christians that want to play it because it looks so pretty. And hopefully they ask questions about the story, and it's an opportunity for me to share more about my faith. But I think I would hope that, like if you guys are at a convention, you pull it out and it looks like people are having fun, or it looks interesting. I think a lot of people at conventions just walk by tables and they say, I haven't seen that game. Tell me about that game. I guess the hope is that people will be sharing it around and we'll be getting together. It's one thing for people to play it at their church or play it with their family and they already know the story and believe. It's another thing to have a giveaway at a convention, like I said, or showcasing it and playing it there with tons of different people.
Yeah.
So I think that would be what I hope for it.
Yeah. That's awesome. One of the things that I like, going back to the earlier question about your creative liberties that you took in there, and you explaining about the story, and even having the Gospel of Matthew in there that talks about it, being able to explain to non-Christians that as they play, they might say, wait, this is in the Bible, and you can say, well, actually, this is, we kind of took some creative liberties here, but, the Herod's palace was in terms of this, or they actually didn't have the silk, or maybe they did, but they didn't reference that. These kinds of things can lend to be able to talk into that a little bit more. So that from the standpoint of your creative liberties that you took in the game, I see that happening, and hopefully it will, and be a good part of the game and conversations when it gets to the table.
Yeah, and I love that you actually included the story in Matthew, right? So then people can read it, because not everyone is familiar, right? And like you said, like we all kind of attach it to the Christian, the Christmas narrative, and there's actually a lot of rich historical, depth in that, as far as like how long that journey was, when did the thing actually appear. Okay, now they're getting here. Why did Herod say, okay, any kid 2 and under, right? Like that matters, right?
Well, and like if you want to Bible nerd about it with someone, you can get into the whole prophetic side of it.
Absolutely.
The mirrors of the Exodus from Egypt with Moses and all these other things, but which that's like super my heart. But I think what I've learned is like, you can't get into some of those, like where you need to explain how amazing the Bible connects multiple stories of people that God worked across centuries without first opening up a door somewhere else. And for some people, the only thing maybe that might open a door is getting in a community where they go, oh, you like playing games, I like playing games, and they might not normally want to be your friend or something like that. So
absolutely.
About getting people together at a table.
Yep, absolutely. And again, for me, it's like I talk to people, I'm like, look, like you have kind of like Christianity 101, 201, 301, 401. And sometimes we jump classes. I'm like, bro, we need to be on 101 here, man. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, this person doesn't have context. Like, don't jump into deep eschatological leanings and try to like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up in that time, just given the context of the relationship or where a person is and how much Bible knowledge they have or whatever. And so, I mean, Ray and I both working with youth and Youth for Christ, like we have a lot of kids that come through the door and they've never even opened a Bible. So you tell them, hey, turn to the book of Romans. They're like, the what with the who? Like, where do I go? You know? And so again, you know, I think a game like Three Magi can be a great first step with people where it's like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. It's based on the biblical narrative, you know, and can have some conversation. I think that's a really great starting point, you know, in what I would consider, I guess, like a post-Christian, you know, time period in some regards, not all, but in some. And so, yeah, no, love that. Yeah, that's super good. So, you know, we do have some fun questions here. A couple little things to go through at the end to end it. But before we even get there, you know, is there anything you want to kind of share or wrap up with Three Magi that we haven't covered? You know, something that maybe just jumps out. And you've covered a lot, which is fantastic. So I don't know. I just don't want to miss anything. If there's something else before we get into some other questions.
Yeah, I think I mentioned about like some of the interesting components that are going to be in the Kickstarter. There'll be like an initial add-on expansion. It's part of the kind of all-in pledge, some nice minis and a special like gold coin and the little frankincense and myrrh thing. But I think there's a lot packed into it, and I do think we kind of covered a lot of it. So I think the main thing is just looking out for it on May 13th, and people can already, you guys are going to share the links, but they can already pre-save it on Kickstarter or follow Bedouin Games or Bedouin. I actually still don't know exactly how he says it, even with the guy.
I was gonna ask.
I should probably confirm.
Yeah, because you and I pronounce it different. I always say Bedouin. Like I say,
maybe you're right.
Well, I don't know.
Usually, well, when it comes to pronouncing things, usually I'm wrong. Just like Toronto, right?
Toronto has another T in it, man. Yeah. No, that's hilarious. Yeah, you were saying it. I was like, man, I've been pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. I just say Bedouin. That's what I've always said. No one
need to like Google it and then have Google like do the audio voice. And,
I just figure no one, no, Elijah's never corrected me. No one's ever corrected me. I have no idea.
Like, he won't correct you. That's why I don't know, because he wouldn't correct me if I was wrong.
Too nice. Yeah, got it. I love that. That's awesome. All right, cool. So I want to end here with a couple little zingers here. So this is a big question. This is a deep question. Most underrated board game in your opinion?
I looked at this today when you sent me the questions. I was looking at my shelf and my ranked games on Board Game Geek, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to say, but I came across one. And have you guys ever played the Catan card game? It's now called Rivals of Catan.
Joe definitely has not.
No,
but hear me out. This is why
I'm gonna hear you out. Yeah.
I probably hate Catan as much as you do based on your expression. But I've had the Catan card games since I was like 12, maybe. I think they rebranded it. It's pretty much the same mechanics, but it's called Rivals of Catan now.
Yeah.
It's a 2-player city building game, and you still roll for resources, but everybody always gets a resource, both players, and it's a really underrated game because you can do a lot with like special build. It's kind of like an engine builder within a city builder. Like you're building granaries to store and protect your resources that are only connected to them.
Okay.
You're building somewhere else, like a building that can only be built if you upgrade your city, and it's completely different than regular Catan, other than getting the same resources.
Okay.
Like even like a road, it's not like a connecting. You just need to build a road so you can add more cities, and it reminds me more of a trading card game, honestly. Like something like a Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering, if you're putting out more like artifacts and Magic where they're coming out as passive abilities. That's why I thought to share it, because there's a lot of people that have a disdain for Catan, and they would be like, I want to play the card game. But it's basically a completely different game. So
Okay, so full transparency, right? Yeah, clear. I do not like Catan, but I'm gonna even show this on my phone here. I don't even know. I actually have Rivals sitting in my board game list on Amazon because I've heard a very similar thing, and I was
underrated.
Look, like Catan, it's kind of an OG for me. Yeah, I don't care for it anymore, but maybe I would give it a shot. And you might have just pushed me a little bit closer.
Okay.
A little bit. I have not. I mean, I have gotten so many other games between the time I put that on that list until now. And I clearly, because now I'm realizing how much my prototype of 3 Magi won't have that's going to be on the Kickstarter. I need to save those funds so that I can get it on the Kickstarter.
So
I can get all the cool stuff.
No, sorry, I retract.
It's not that great after all.
No, it's a matter of fact.
Any game designed by Cole Smith is underrated, and you should go buy it because it's really amazing.
That's right. Yes.
Best answer ever. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. As soon as you said Catan, though, and again, that's another one that no one knows how to pronounce. Is it Catan? Is it Catan? Is it Settlers? I have no idea. It depends if you drink things with your pinky up, it's Catan. If you if you got your hat sideways, it's Catan, bro. It don't matter. But that's hilarious. We talk a lot about it on the show. It always comes up, and I just I honestly, I played that game way too much, and I don't like who I am with it. I've had dice thrown at me in that game. I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. I don't care for this anymore. And so it's probably a me issue more than a game issue, but I digress. All right, cool. So, biblical character that you think would make a great board game protagonist?
I've always wanted to do because a while ago I was thinking about Joshua and the story going into the Promised Land, which is also more of a journey, but the whole campaign going into that, I thought there could be some unique ways to make it like an area control game, but with some I don't know, just unique stuff, even from maybe a co-op perspective where it's almost like playing against the game and against the Canaanites. So it's not like a one player, one side versus the other, but I had an idea for that a while ago. So I think it could be cool to incorporate something about Joshua.
Yeah, support that.
Yeah.
I get behind it.
Yeah.
Especially if it had really cool minis. No.
It could.
No, it's good. All right.
Giant.
Right, yeah, there you go. So, if you could co-design a game with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
I like designing with Adrian, and I already do that. But,
yeah, I know. I was gonna. I almost wanted to add the caveat that it couldn't be him, but
yeah. Probably Cole Worley, because I love leader games, and Root is my favorite game. I have all the expansions, and then we could make a game and we could say by Cole and Cole. So
there you go.
It would work out perfectly. Yeah. But I really like his games a lot, and I've played most of them. So
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a reason exactly, but maybe because I've already mentioned it. I really want to make an area control game, and
it comes up a lot. It
seems like you're going to do that.
It's happening.
I haven't really gotten around to actually making an idea stick. So, and it's funny because also when I read your comment, I guess to give another one is I was thinking maybe Eric Lang, and he's known for his trilogy of Ankh and Blood Rage. Area control ones. Maybe it doesn't matter about them. I just want to make an area control.
Right. I was gonna say because I think from the moment we started this interview to now, it has been area control has just continued to come up. That it's
I guess.
That's what's coming next for you.
I was gonna say
I can foresee it. I got a prophetic vision that you have an area control game coming out in the near future.
I got a word. It has nothing to do with anything we've heard. 2 words are coming to me right now. Area control. Yeah. That's and then if throw the Benny Hinn little hit you with a coat, something's gonna happen. Yeah. No. That's amazing. Dude, this has been great. This has been a lot of fun. And like I said, we're gonna have links to the Kickstarter on the podcast. So that people can click and again, just get notified at launch and go and support. And also would want people to be able to find your other stuff. So we'll try and work on some links there as well. But are you on social media, anywhere that people can find you?
Yeah, I have an Instagram that's Cole _ design _ games. And then
No,
Yeah,
no, you're good. It's short. It's short.
I
And
always
concise.
forget because you can't put spaces and
Is part of it? Like, is it Cole underscore
no,
design?
I was just having a brain fart.
No, you're good, man.
But like with my games is like the other one, Soros, Tanuki, and 3 Magi, I already have Board Game Geek listings,
Cool.
so they're easy to find there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sweet.
That's probably the easiest.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's great. We'd want people to be able to find you and find what you're doing and be able to support you in that way. That's something like when we launched the Christian Board Gamers Facebook group and started to realize how many believers are in the space, and it's growing and we're learning more and more, but just being able to connect Christian game designers with believers that want to play Christ-centric games or biblically themed games, or just know that the people that they're supporting are following Jesus. Like, that's a really cool, it was kind of an unforeseen consequence of that group a little bit. So we want to be able to point people in your direction that they're able to, get a hold of what you're doing and be able to support you. So cool. Yeah. So Colt, thank you Colt. That's okay. Good. No, been playing a lot of Colt Express lately, and it flew out, bro. No, it's good. Cole with an L-E, not a T. It's like Toronto, bro, but I just brought it out. Your actual, it's Cole, but we keep the T silent. I understand. I got it. You're good. No, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your heart behind 3 Magi, also your journey in faith and creativity. For us, it's always inspiring to hear just how God has moved in people's lives in these spaces. And so we're just thankful that you would take the time to join us. And to those of you who are listening, go check out what Cole is doing. Sounds like this man is creating some creative games and wants to bring some really cool things to the space. So support him. Click those links. Go check out the Kickstarter and let's get behind each other and just pour into Cole here. So, and Bedouin Games or Bedouin or whatever you want to pronounce that as the publisher of 3 Magi, and go support them as well. They're rocking out some pretty dope games as well. So cool beans. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. And as always, we want to leave you with Matthew 5:16. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and glorify our Father who is in heaven. Until next time. Peace.